Well, welcome everybody. My name is Kevin Morrow. I'm a deputy city attorney, and we're going to give you a little overview of the joy that is the Open Meetings Act, and additionally to talk a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order and how boards and commissions operate within the city. I am happy to answer any questions that you have along the way. Also, moving forward, I am, at least in the interim, going to be acting as the attorney for this board. So if you have questions that occur to you afterwards, feel free to let me know. With that in mind, actually, I'll put my email address in the chat box. Feel free to ask any questions if they pop up later on. First off, as is the case, thank you for serving on a board. It is not a glamorous activity, but it's completely necessary for our government. And so we're grateful for your participation, and especially grateful for your participation on a Friday afternoon. With that said, you all know that you're appointed to the city's Citizens Independent Salary Commission. So you all are tasked with the job of trying to decide whether our city councilors and our mayor are appropriately compensated. And there's a series of ways. Oh, and actually, I think Nicole has a little more familiarity with what your actual charter is, as we would say. Welcome, Nicole.
My apologies. Technical difficulties at home.
It's always the way. It's nice that we're almost 3 years into this working remotely thing, and it's just so seamless always.
Always. At least I'm not on mute, right?
Excellent. So I was just welcoming to the meeting and providing my information. Nicole, I didn't know if you wanted to start by telling them about their commission, or did you just want me to keep going?
Yes, Katrina, please.
Are we going to follow the process on the agenda, or are we? I just want to make sure that we're following the process.
We probably should, and my apologies because I did not bring the agenda open. Hang on one moment.
Do you need me to forward it to you?
Yes, that'd be fantastic.
Apologies. Should be coming your way right now.
Ah, there you go. I got it here. All right. So I guess as is the case according to the agenda, why don't I begin by calling this meeting to order? Accordingly, members of the board, I will ask for you to state that you are present. And I guess for the purposes of this in remote meetings, it's generally beneficial to state your full name. And so with that, I'll ask Molly to announce your presence.
Hi, Molly Rogers, present.
Okay. Thank you, Molly. I could hear you, but it was barely so, and I saw Michael leaning in. So if you could get a little closer to the microphone, that would be helpful.
Oh, sure. Molly Rogers, present.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, how about yourself?
Michael Garland, I am present here as well.
All right. And Carrie, please.
Yeah, Carrie Sutton, present.
All right, thank you. And I know that Mr. Hickman is excused from this meeting, and as such, we now have a quorum of the Citizens Independent Salary Commission. With that, actually, I did already start by introducing myself. Why don't we go around and introduce? We'll go back in the initial order of commissioners. And Molly, would you please introduce yourself? Tell us how you came to be here.
Hi, everyone. My name's Molly Rogers. I'm a former Navy linguist, and so I have the military data analyst background behind me. I'm currently actually working with Lowe's in their corporate office as a training moderator. So I literally just spent 8 hours on a Zoom meeting, and then I was so looking forward to Friday, and I forgot about this one. So let me get this straight. I've been living in Albuquerque for 11 years now, but my parents are native New Mexicans. My father was in the Navy, so we traveled all over. I'm really happy to be here. How did I end up on the committee? Somebody sent me an email and said, sign up for this. And I did. And then y'all picked me. So I'm really honored and excited to be here to help. I'm looking forward to the work.
All right, and Michael, yes, please.
Yeah, I am Michael Garlid. I recently moved here about 6 months ago for a new job. I bring international delegations to Albuquerque and to the region on professional meetings, primarily sponsored by the Department of State. I work for Global Ties Albuquerque, and we had a meeting with Nicole Kelly, actually, who then told me about this opportunity, and I love to be involved. So I applied for it as well and was selected. So thank you.
Excellent. And Carrie, how about yourself?
Yeah, hi there. Carrie Sutton here, and I learned about this opportunity through Nicole as well, through my hat in the ring. I work in HR. Currently, I'm the manager of people operations with the ACLU of New Mexico. I also serve on the board of directors for La Montañita Co-op.
Excellent. And how about Nicole? Why don't you?
Sure, thank you. Nicole Kelly, I'm the city auditor here with the Office of Internal Audit. You'll learn a bit more about our role and how we support the commission a little bit later. But thank you all for being here. This is an interesting commission that gets to get together every couple years, but for a very important function. And so we're glad to have you all here. And we still have one vacancy, so please continue to spread the word if you know of anybody else that might be interested.
Excellent. And how about you, Katrina?
So my name is Katrina Sagala. This is my second week with Office of Internal Audit, but I've been with the city for 23 years. So have experience with some boards with civilian police oversight, and I'm excited to be part of this group.
Excellent. And Leslie, why don't you wrap us up?
Hello, everyone. I'm Leslie Rendon with the City of Albuquerque Office of Internal Audit, and I'm the staff auditor.
Excellent. All right, so moving on to our next agenda item. We're here to discuss the commission's authority. And
I will share my screen here.
fantastic.
Are we all seeing my screen? Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. This is a bit of an orientation to the Citizen Independent Salary Commission, what we like to refer to it as CISC. And we'll tell you a little bit about, how the commission came to be, the authority, the structure, some of the parameters, and then who is here to support you and what prior commissioners had kind of conducted in the past. Okay, so with that, so the commission authority. So back when Albuquerque voters approved the commission as an amendment to city charter. So this is back in 2009, and essentially the charter is like the city's constitution. So this is as permanent as it gets around here. So whereas the Office of Internal Audit, our authority lays in ordinance, this is solidified in charter. And so what it requires is that 1 year prior to each regular municipal election, the commission is tasked with essentially studying, analyzing, evaluating, questioning the salaries of the elected officials. So in this case, that includes the mayor and the 9 city councilors. The commission has the authority to consider all factors relevant to the salaries. So this includes although the commission is tasked with setting the salary, they can consider full compensation. So including benefits, time off, some have considered travel, some consider time worked, experience. So you have no limitations in what you can assess. And changes to the salary that are recommended by the commission are not effective for the incumbent mayor or councilors and are only effective for their next terms. And so with that, they're on there's a cycle. The mayor, and I believe, Kevin, let me know if I'm wrong, I believe the mayor and the odd districts are on the 2019 cycle, and the even districts are up for election on they were just elected the 2022 cycle. And so any changes, no one who is currently in office will be impacted by your changes unless they win or they seek re-election and win. Okay, commission parameters. So it's a 5-member commission, and you all were selected by the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee. So they, like yourselves, it's a voluntary committee. It is a management committee. It does not set policy. Their function really is to oversee the Inspector General and the City Auditor. And that's where their authority essentially lies. Through that authority, they're able to approve the reports published, but they actually don't have even management function of the offices themselves. And so they're appointed by an alternating appointments by City Council and by the mayor. There's no term limit, so some of the committee members have been here through various administrations. So it's another layer of independence, so that you were selected by essentially an independent oversight committee. All members of your commission, there's really only a couple rules that are codified in charter. So all members must reside in the city of Albuquerque, or must be residents. I mean, there's a lot of legal different definitions for residing, but your primary residence must be located in Albuquerque. And you cannot be an official or an employee or have an immediate family member employed by the city. So in charter, those are the only 2 parameters. We do ask that obviously that this should not be a politically motivated position. You're really tasked with looking at the positions and responsibilities in the compensation of the mayor position and the councilor position, not the individuals that hold the position. Your term is it's a 4-year term unless a member is selected to fill a vacancy, and you're limited to 2 terms. And the most important of these facts is that the commission is subject to the Open Meetings Act. And so all of our meetings are open to the public. And anytime there's voting items on your agenda, we are required to accept public comment. And we will handle all that logistical stuff on your behalf, and we'll get to that a bit more. Okay, so the support that you guys are provided. So the Accountability and Government Oversight Committee is responsible for appointing your members. The Office of Internal Audit is a supporting role to you. We conduct analysis and research based on your direction. And we provide administrative support via scheduling or documents or that kind of thing. We do not provide recommendations. So this is not an audit. It's technically a non-audit service. So when we present the analysis, no recommendations from our office will be included with that recommendation. We're simply presenting the facts and the findings based on your instruction. And then, of course, you get an attorney, because everybody needs an attorney. So the city attorney's office serves as your legal counsel during the course of city business. So a little bit of history about this, not history, but a little bit about the current city structure. So the city utilizes a mayor council government structure with an appointed chief administrative officer. So the mayor is essentially the city's CEO. They represent the city in foreign affairs, local affairs. The council is our legislative arm. So if you're thinking about the branches of government, the mayor is the executive branch and council is the legislative branch. There is a chief administrative officer who is appointed by the mayor but confirmed by council, and they're responsible for day-to-day operations. The city is divided into 9 districts, each represented by a councillor, and the councillors then elect a president. So according to city charter historical postscripts, so a little bit of history here, I guess there was some. Originally, the city had a 5-member city commission, which governed the city since 1917. But in 1974, this 5-member commission was replaced with a full-time mayor. So there was no mayor prior to that, but so it was replaced with a full-time mayor as the city's CEO and a 9-member part-time districted city council that served as a legislative arm. And that's how it's been ever since. And I apologize, the last bullet got smushed, but based on 2020 census data, Albuquerque was the 31st largest city in the US. And we'll get a little bit more about the demographics. So here is the districting map. So you can kind of figure out where you reside. Not that it could matter, it could be a function, but currently all the councilors receive the same compensation with the exception of the councilor president, which the commission elected to compensate slightly higher, and we'll get to those numbers. So here is, and it's hard to read, but you can kind of get a sense of the city government structure. So we're ultimately beholden to the people. Currently, Mayor Keller is the mayor. Below him is the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, and there's some officers below that, and the various departments that run the city's affairs. And if you see to the right there, there's 3 offices that don't report to administration. That would be the Office of Inspector General, the Office of Internal Audit, and the Civilian Police Oversight Agency. Okay, current salaries as established by your commission. So the last cycle, which was completed 2 years ago, the commission decided to increase all salaries. So the salary for the mayor and the councilors and the councilor president were all increased based on their recommendation. And these are the current salaries that are in place right now. Okay, so a little bit about our what the commission has instructed the Office of Internal Audit to do on their behalf to help them come to a determination and evaluate the current salaries. So historically, they've asked us to evaluate the roles and responsibilities of the mayor and the councilor. You know, what they're responsible for, what their schedules look like, various subcommittees that the councilors are on, the time demands related to those. Commissions have interviewed themselves pre-COVID in person. They actually called the mayor and councilors before them and interviewed them. Post-COVID, or maybe even pre-COVID, I think some of the commissions preferred just a simple survey that was sent to the mayor and to the councilors. In the last cycle, they requested that the survey be anonymous so that councilors could provide honest responses about their duties and the demands of their position. They analyzed the mayor and the councilor's historical compensation. We have this dating back, last cycle we dated back to 2013. So that's at the commission's discretion. They assessed the cost of living, changes in cost of living and affordability based on the consumer price index and the median household income. Prior commissions have also looked at inflation. They asked us to research comparable cities based on factors of the size of the city budget, the population, government structure, location, cost of living. And they wanted to know, what are those cities paying their mayor? What are those cities paying their councilors? And what kind of benefits are offered? They analyzed hours worked, salaries, and total compensation packages. And lastly, they solicited input from the public to hear what their thoughts on the salary structure and rates. And these are just some of the things that have done. I mean, again, it's at the commission's discretion to do these things, to do more than these things. Where audit comes into play is that we try to understand how that information will best serve the commission. And that's at the end of the day, we don't have the ability to direct the analysis, but it is helpful for us to understand the intent of the analysis, and so that we can understand how it can best serve the commission. And that's it on just kind of the orientation. And again, I just want to thank you guys to just serve in this capacity, and we want to try to make this process as seamless as we can and efficient for you guys. We know that you all have full-time jobs, and you're doing this from just as a service to the city. So we want to be respectful of that time. So we appreciate your flexibility in moving this first meeting, and we will make sure that we're better about scheduling and nailing things down and in the future. So thank you so much. Okay. So Kevin, back to you on the agenda.
I know, I see that. So why don't we move in to discuss the Open Meetings Act? I do have a slide presentation, but I think we can just talk it through it. Just so you're aware, the Open Meetings Act of New Mexico covers public meetings. The underlying public policy of the Open Meetings Act is that in recognition of the fact that a representation, oh man, and of course my slide just broke. Well, since my slide broke, I will not read it verbatim, but it does say that the public is entitled to the greatest possible information regarding the acts of government, is essentially what the purpose of the Open Meetings Act is. As Nicole specifically mentioned, your particular committee is governed by charter, is created by charter, and then that charter actually declares that your commission explicitly is subject to the Open Meetings Act. And the significance of that is that by statute, boards and commissions within the city are intended to comply with the Open Meetings Act to the greatest extent possible. Many boards and commissions are just recommending bodies, including this one. And so there can be a desire to not necessarily follow all aspects of the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act applies explicitly to decision-making bodies. That said, again, because as Ms. Kelly pointed out, the city's constitution, the charter says that you all are subject to the Open Meetings Act. So more so than most other boards and commissions, it's really important to abide by the Open Meetings Act, even if maybe to the absolute technical letter of the law, it wouldn't necessarily be required. But your board more than others, we really seek compliance. That said, what
Kevin?
constitutes,
Kevin,
yes,
you mind if I add a bit what that means for them?
sure.
So, we will, on our side, we will make sure that the public has proper notice when the commission is going to convene. We will also make sure that the public has an opportunity to either provide comment or sign up for public comment based on the voting, if there's voting items on the agenda. So we will handle all that. We also will try our best to make sure that the public is aware of these meetings. So we try to reach out to the local media. We post it on our website, post it on the city's website. We share it with our friends and family. So we try to get the word out as best we can. There's some technicalities of the Open Meetings Act that can cause a little bit of confusion, or it's easy for people to forget. And Kevin, if you're going to go into this, please just stop me. But regarding email communication and what constitutes a quorum. So are you going to?
I am 100% diving into quorum.
Okay.
Rolling quorums and the joy that is email communication.
Okay. Perfect.
So specifically, we'll jump into quorum. So OMA is applicable at any time when you all reach a quorum. Quorum is specifically a quorum is when the minimum number of people required to make a decision of your board is actually gathered. So in this case, there are various ways to calculate quorum, but yours is pretty easy. Your board has 5 members, even though there's one that is vacant. So for you all, 3 is a quorum. If there were only 3 members on the board and 2 of you could be available, that is not a quorum. You will always be required to have 3 to make a quorum. So if 3 of you happen to run into each other in the grocery store and decide to talk about mayor salaries, you've inadvertently created a quorum. Now, if you run into each other at the grocery store and you're talking about what you're going to cook at Thanksgiving dinner, not a quorum. So the essence is that you need to have all 3 of you. You need to be communicating, and it has to be related to the public business that is this commission. What Nicole was going to discuss is the joy that is rolling quorums, and often the fun with emails. That's where we find our most inadvertent, but frankly, the most violations of the Open Meetings Act caused by boards and commissions in the city is, say she sends out the agenda, all of you have it, somebody replies all to it saying, oh, this agenda item I'm interested in because of X, Y, and Z. And then Molly, you reply all to everyone and say, well, this is what I think about. Well, suddenly you've reached quorum via email. And so your meeting has now become subject to the Open Meetings Act, but you're just doing it via email without any public notice. And therefore you'd be violating the Open Meetings Act. Similarly is the quandary that is the rolling quorum, which is Molly, you email Carrie and say, what I think is that the council president is woefully underpaid compared to the other councilors. And Carrie says, well, that's interesting. The 2 of you probably shouldn't be having this conversation, but outside of the confines of this meeting. But there's only 2 of you. It's not quorum. It's not violating the Open Meetings Act. But Carrie, you turn around and you're like, Molly had a really good point in this email, and you forward it to Michael. Now we've got 3 counselors involved in this communication, even though they weren't all involved at the same time. That's what's called a rolling quorum. And that would also constitute a violation of the Open Meetings Act. I will tell you that I think based on the kind of subject and the number of meetings that you all are going to have, you have a limited subject matter to discuss. Now, certainly you will have various ideas on what information needs to be gathered, the things that you'd like to know from other cities, other municipalities on how to judge these things. But you don't have the same, weekly or monthly applications that happen for other boards and commissions, where you're dealing with like the Environmental Planning Commission deals with land use cases every month, and so they'll have 12 of them, and they're more likely to have kind of interim questions that they may want to reach out to. So as a rule of thumb, communicate directly with your attorney or with the internal audit staff with your questions, and try to refrain from talking to other commissioners outside of the meetings. Like I said, if 2 of you are talking about it, it's not technically a quorum, but it's not best practices. And your particular board doesn't meet too frequently, so I think it'll be easy enough to handle these things exclusively within the confines of these commission meetings. As Nicole mentioned, the Open Meetings Act requires specific notice requirements that you do not really need to worry about those. City staff will take care of making sure that things are noticed properly and agendas are posted, things like that. A lot of explicit Open Meetings Act exceptions, things like that, are just not really applicable to you. You're never going to want to go into closed session. You're never going to discuss acquisition of city property or strategy and lawsuits, things that for which you can go into closed session. So basically all of your discussions will be part of an open meeting and will be subject to the observation by the public. Certainly right now, all of our meetings have been, for coming up on 3 years, being held virtually. Just to be aware, that may change somewhere in the future, but there's nothing on the horizon telling you that that'll change. The only implications for that are some of the voting requirements that I'll get into in just a moment. Beyond that, I did, and forgive me because I have not been this particular commission's attorney before, but Nicole, you did say that traditionally this commission allows for public comment. Is that accurate?
Yes, they do, for any items on any voting items.
Okay, that's something. It is technically up to the commission. It's again best practices. I think that it will, at your next meeting when we get forward to electing a chair and doing some of that things, you can adopt specific rules related to how you want to accept public comment. Some boards accept it only in writing. That must be provided in advance. Some allow people to actually speak freely. Some say you get 2 minutes, some say you get 5, some say you can talk all day. It's, these sorts of rules are ultimately up to you to decide on how you would like to allow the public to participate.
And Kevin, we've actually began drafting a resolution for the commission's review and consideration that kind of encompasses how public comment has been handled historically, as well as hopefully nailing down future meeting dates so that we can give public notice, in one swoop, as opposed to trying to make sure that once we find a day that works for all the commissioners, that we have enough time to give proper notice. So we'll be sharing that at the next meeting.
Excellent. So some of the actual things that related to the notice that you do need to be aware of is actually related to the specific agenda. Again, city staff will take care of the agenda, but one of your duties when you're actually holding the meeting is you will likely start your meeting by reviewing the agenda and asking for changes and seeing if anybody would like to move for any particular changes. We'll get into the Robert's rules and the mechanics of how to make motions in just a moment. Additionally, you are going to be required to review and approve minutes from previous meetings. The minutes are just a short encapsulation of what actually formally occurred at a previous meeting. One of the kind of misconceptions of minutes, a lot of times people think that they're almost like a transcript. They're not. Minutes are much more abbreviated synopsis of what occurred at the previous meeting. It will say who was present. It will say it'll list any motions that were made. It'll mention who seconded the motions and then who actually voted on them. But it doesn't gonna say, well, Molly thought this and Michael thought that. And then ultimately you'll then be responsible for approving the minutes at a subsequent meeting.
And we will actually prepare those for you. So anything administrative, any administrative matters, we will handle on your behalf. So we will prepare them, and then they'll be part of the next meeting's agenda, and then you'll motion to, either like modify them or approve them as is. And I with all this, I forgot to mention like the build up to what this effort really is the final report. Audits will draft on the commission's behalf and submit it for the commission's review. Oftentimes they come back and they have questions, or they want further analysis, or want more benchmarking. But there's no drafting that the commissioners will have to, they won't have to prepare an analysis. They won't have to prepare a report. We will be handling all that based on your instruction.
All right, thank you. And so let me tell you one of the things that is distinct in our time of remote meetings from traditional open meetings. There's a couple more things, some of which we are not actually abiding by right now, because normally I'm the lawyer for meetings and not actually trying to help drive them. One of the things that we're supposed to do is announce who is speaking. So I'm supposed to say this is Kevin, or this is Commissioner Morrow, and I'm not the commissioner, but as you say, I'm supposed to introduce myself anytime I make a public comment, just for clarity. It's a little different. I think that's more intended for audio only meetings, which were conceivably allowed, but we have Zoom, so you can see my lips moving. So I don't think we're really at major risk here, but as far as best practices, you should, announce yourself. One of the biggest differences is in the notion of voting in a public forum. If we're all in the same room, it's traditional to say all those in favor say aye, all those that say nay. All votes of the commission should be done by roll call. So we should announce, Commissioner Garland, what do you vote? Commissioner Sutton, what is your vote? And so on, and then record them as yes, ayes or nays, or yeses or nos, however we choose to move forward.
And Katrina will be conducting roll call for any voting items.
Perfect.
Just listen for your name.
The other one, which we all experienced some of our joy of a little bit of technical difficulties just to start this meeting. The meeting should not continue if we recognize that we're having audio or visual difficulties. If Zoom crashes on us and a couple of you can still hear each other, don't continue with the meeting. If you think that if it seems like it's frozen, treat it like it's frozen, and we'll have to just pause until the technical difficulties subside. Again, for things that we know, the public's going to be provided notice and access, so none of that is a real concern for you. The biggest concern is that the importance of OMA is not just for the public to be aware of everything. The Open Meetings Act is actually carries with it potential criminal penalties. So while it doesn't really come up, willful disregard of the Open Meetings Act is ill-advised. And it can be enforced by both the Attorney General and in this case, the Bernalillo County District Attorney's Office. Additionally, private citizens have the right to file suit against the body and say that there have been violations of the Open Meetings Act. I think you are all respectful and law-abiding volunteers, so I don't expect that to come forward, but I need to warn you that is something that could actually occur.
And not to scare you off, but remember, it's willful disregard too. We understand we have a lot of new commissioners, and we're here to assist you with the requirements of the OMA. but it's knowingly disregarding the requirements that will get you in trouble. And so if you're ever unsure, let one of us know, and we will get you the proper answer.
Absolutely. And then if you have any other questions, actually, let me put this link in the chat. There is no, I don't have that link either. I'll find it in just a moment before we leave. There is the Attorney General produces an Open Meetings Act compliance guide that can let you know, can help answer any kind of hypothetical, not any, but many hypothetical questions regarding compliance. One of the things to be aware of that's kind of similar to this, and it's the city of Albuquerque is subject to the Inspection of Public Records Act. So in your volunteer role as a commissioner of the city, if you are sending emails, even if they are from a personal account, but they are directed to official public business or business of the commission, those would be subject to the Inspection of Public Records Act request. And so if such a request were to come in, we would ask you to produce those emails, anything like that. It's just another frankly, another reason to try and avoid sending each other emails related to commission business. I was once upon a time the IPRA attorney for the city. It's not super fun to have your emails IPRA'd, because then you get to have the joy of explaining and sharing all of your emails and having people that aren't you sort through what may be pertinent. Again, I don't really anticipate that being something that would be an issue for you, but it's just, I guess really what we're trying to do is scare you in the beginning.
I know, Kevin, we had a hard enough time getting, we still have one vacancy. So
I know, my fault.
What we've done, and we're offering is, Katrina has actually established city emails for all of you, so that we can correspond with you through those emails. So in the event that there was a information request, we wouldn't have to go diving in. You wouldn't have to pull information from your personal email. We could just literally pull them from this city CISC email that we created for you. And so we can work with you if you're not familiar with like how to add a new email account to Outlook, or you're not familiar with Outlook. Please call us, or Katrina or I, and we can walk you through that. But we would urge you to consider that. It's really to kind of protect your personal information. You're doing this out of the goodness of your heart, and we appreciate that. And so we want to limit the impact that an information request might have.
And that's actually, I did not know that, and I will tell you that is a perk that is not provided to most of our boards and commissions. Specifically, the last slide I have that I am not showing you says the city doesn't provide email addresses to board members. But that we recommend that you recreate one just for the purposes, so that you don't.
DT has done so. I
know, but again, you guys are by charter. You actually are a special commission. I think elected officials have a vested interest in keeping the people that are in charge of their raises happy to some extent. So if that is like an overview of the Open Meetings Act. Why don't we just pause and see if you guys do you have any questions about the Open Meetings Act or concerns?
We haven't scared anyone off yet.
Excellent.
Good.
I know, between a lawyer and an auditor, we are popular people. All right. So, moving on to Robert's Rules of Order and meeting basics. I did actually, here was the quote, the smallest number of people must be present at a meeting so that official decisions can be made is a quorum. As I said, you don't have to worry about it, but you guys are 3. Always 3, so that's pretty easy to remember. Boards and commissions within the city are strongly recommended to use Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order are incredibly dense. I think it's 600 or so pages now. You don't need to know most of it, especially because you're what's known as a small board and commission. So many of the rules don't apply. For you, the biggest thing to know is after quorum is how to make a motion. So in the event that you all would like to proceed with a motion, what would happen is the chair would recognize a member. So Commissioner Sutton, you've been recognized. You would then make a motion to amend the agenda. That motion would require a second from a different commissioner. At that point, the chair should restate the motion, should say, Commissioner Sutton has made a motion to amend the agenda that has been seconded by Commissioner Garland. At which point you all can debate. We've got a motion, we've got a second, it's time to discuss the motion. What is confusing to people is that all of the time, boards and commissions think they should discuss the matter before anybody makes a motion. So people will have extended discussions about a subject, and then someone will say, I would entertain a motion. That's backwards. You're supposed to start with the motion saying, I would like to do something, and then you can discuss. Then upon a motion in a second and the discussion, then we can call for a vote. Somebody can close debate. That there's technicalities about that. Again, that's extremely formal for what I expect you guys to be actually doing. Other than first a motion, a second, a debate, and then you vote. As she said, as Nicole said, Katrina, I guess we'll then take a roll call vote. And if you have a majority of the quorum, so that's the difference. Once you have quorum of 3 members, it only takes 2. If there's all 5 members present, then it would take 3 for the vote to carry. The issue right now is you have 4 members of your board. So failure to have a majority on a motion means the motion will fail. So if there are 4 members present and 2 vote yay and 2 vote nay, the motion fails. Next, we have what are considered motions that are out of order. Again, these are not likely to happen to you, but they are anything that would conflict with laws, which in this case, state, federal, or local laws, or if they conflict with the explicit rules of the board or commission. And that's one I don't know. Nicole, do they have adopted rules?
No.
Okay. It's interesting. We should probably discuss that, but
I knew you were going to say that. Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's fine. It's yes, boards are supposed to adopt rules every year, but if I recall, traditionally this board only meets a couple times a year. Is that right?
Not even every year.
Right.
So maybe 4 times every 2 years.
Okay. Anyway, so that's unlikely. I don't imagine you guys are going to be making illegal motions. What is more likely is sometimes, again, you all seem like very kind and agreeable people, but sometimes commissioners get frustrated that something has been shot down that they believe in great passion, and so they will remove something that they have already moved. So I moved that, the mayor should get a $500,000 salary, and the board votes and says no. And you really passionately believe that he should get it, so you move again for a $500,000 salary. That motion is out of order. It's been heard, it's been done. We need to move on to other business. The alternative is you can move to reconsider. You get one bite at that apple. That's the one way you could have the same motion considered twice, but that would require the motion to reconsider a majority vote on that. So, and then followed by a subsequent vote on the original motion. This is all very technical and very unlikely. It's what happens when somebody hands me a slide with 11 slides of Robert's Rules of Order.
On a Friday evening. So what I think is also, next meeting, we're going to ask the commission to elect a chair. And the chair really is the one that's going to be responsible for the proceedings. So they're the ones that are going to be responsible for making motions and making sure people have the opportunity to speak and going to vote. And so that's a it might be a bit of a daunting task, but that's something to consider when you guys are electing. I know we have one returning commissioner, so who might be a bit familiar. I know it's been 2 years, but he might remember, how these meetings work. So that's also something to consider as well.
Sure, absolutely.
And Kevin will be there in case you do something out of order. He will be there to interject and get us back on track. So
I will at least attempt to. But with that in mind, I think that's kind of the broadest and as nitty gritty as we need to get into right now about Robert's Rules of Order. Some of the other specifics, I guess one that is different for people that are used to Robert's Rules in other contexts. Frequently, there's the belief that chairman of a board should not be allowed to make a motion. So they will oftentimes insinuate what they're looking for and hope somebody else will make that motion on their behalf. Here was known as a small board and commission. In the event that this comes up, the chair is allowed to make motions, but that's also pretty technical. So with that, if you guys have questions about Robert's Rules of Order. All right. I
think you're done.
I think I am. I see future meeting preparation.
Yes. So just really quickly, so then we need to nail down a date for the next meeting. There will be some voting items. And so we can't actually start our analysis without the commission directing us to. So the next meeting, we're going to be asking first that we're going to have you approve 2 sets of not to review or consider 2 sets of meeting minutes, one from last cycle, which none of you were here for, but the minutes will be very simple, simply saying that the commission approved the final report and that the recommendation was certified with the clerk. But it's just a formality. We'll also have minutes for this meeting for your consideration. We'll be asking you guys to elect a chair. And we will also be asking you to consider a resolution, which, like I mentioned, really it sounds more technical than it is, but it's really just a protocol for how the meetings will be advertised to the public and how public comment will be accepted, and hopefully nailing down future dates. We might have more dates than we need, but it will be nice, and we could put the last 2 as tentative, but that way we only have to give that one. That serves as public notice for all future dates. So Karina will be reaching out to everyone to fill out their, yes, Commissioner Sutton.
Yeah, I was just going to confirm we'll receive the drafted resolution in advance to be able to review, or in that meeting.
Kevin. If we include it as part of, in that, it might be wrong, but I think if we include it as part of the agenda packet, then you'll be able to review it once the agenda is posted, but we won't be able to send it, to you, separately beyond the commissioners separately beyond that.
Sorry, can you say that again? What are you sending to the commissioners?
The draft resolution, because it's hard to.
Yeah.
It's a document, and so it takes some time to feel comfortable approving it. So.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. You can absolutely receive these things as reports, draft things, all of that. It's just just can't start replying all saying this is what I think about it. You can
Perfect. So
definitely receive
Kevin,
material.
just so I'm clear, we can actually send it not just as part of the agenda, but we can distribute it to the commissioners in preparation for the meeting outside of the agenda.
Absolutely. That is
Okay.
that is 100% okay.
Okay, great question, Commissioner. So we will send that out prior to the meeting. We will also send out the commissioners' resumes so that you guys can have a little bit of information about each other, so that you know who might you want to be or who might be a good candidate for the chair. We will also our office will also be presenting in more detail what analysis was conducted in the past, and then you guys will have an opportunity to, add or take away from what's presented, or beyond that. You're not limited to what we're presenting. So, and we will send out the draft, the final report from last cycle, so you can kind of get a sense of the analysis. And we'll be asking whether or not the commissioners would like to meet with the mayor and city councilors, or like interview them, or conduct a survey, whether that survey is going to be confidential. So those kind of things for the next meeting. Any other questions? Okay, just one more thing. So the next meeting, because there's voting items, we will be accepting public comment until, unless the commissioners instruct us otherwise, which they can vote to do at the next meeting. You'll see GovTV here. So this is going to be broadcasted. So it's going to live on beyond us here, just on Zoom this Friday evening. So just keep those things in mind for future meetings. So that's all we have for you guys, unless you have any questions. I know it's a Friday night. You still have time to, yes, Katrina.
So just to follow up on their emails, I will be reaching out to them, sending the information, so how they will be accessing the city emails. So look for that to be coming probably after the holidays, if not sooner. And then if we could just have everyone log into Doodle and complete their availability for the upcoming meetings, would be really appreciated. That's all I have.
That's it for us.
I think we may adjourn.
Okay,
Thank you so much,
5:35.
everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet you all. We'll see you soon at the next meeting.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
You guys too. Have a great Thanksgiving. It's nice to meet you.
Happy Thanksgiving.